Hi, 7th grade. This video is going to focus on reading, how to tackle a reading, and then we're also going to focus on several questions on inferencing and also finding evidence to support those inferences. This trimester 1, you are going to be doing several of these videos to prepare you for class, for reading difficult text in class, and also to prepare you for the interim that you'll be taking in the fall. Before I start, let's talk about what an inference is. An inference is an educated guess that you make based on clues or evidence you can observe, combined with what you already know. So again, an inference is it's an educated guess that you make based on clues from the evidence that you see, and also what you already know. It's kind of like being a detective. You look at the clues around you and you use your background knowledge to figure out what's probably happening, even though no one directly told you. Okay, so inferences are never clear in the text. They don't actually tell you what the inference is. You have to determine the inference. So 1, observe the evidence. So what you see, what you read, hear. Use your background knowledge, what you already know about the world. Put them together, and that makes a logical conclusion. For example, you walk into the kitchen and see flour all over the counter, mixing bowls in the sink, and the oven is warm. Okay, so this is the stuff that you observe, right? The evidence. There's flour all over the counter, there's mixing bowls, and the oven is warm. So the evidence is the flour, dirty bowls, warm oven. And you already know something about this, right? Like your background information. These are tools used for baking. So you'll know that you can infer that someone was baking something recently, okay? Here's another one. Your friend walks into class with wet hair, carrying an umbrella, and their shoes are damped, right? That's the evidence, right? People get wet when it rains. That's the background information that you bring in. So it's probably raining outside. Example 3, in a story, a character keeps checking their watch. This is all evidence. Tapping their foot and looking towards the floor. So the evidence is checking time, they're fidgeting and looking at the entrance. The knowledge that you bring in already, that you have background information on, is people act this way when they're waiting. So the inference is the character is waiting for someone and getting impatient. So that's what an inference is, right? An inference is evidence plus your knowledge of the world equals inference. Okay. Okay, so there's 2 texts that I want to read with you. And again, when I read these, I want you to do this the same way I do it. Always interact with the text. Don't just read the text just for the sake of reading it. Here we go. Detective Sarah Martinez had investigated countless cases during her 15 years with the Metropolitan Police. So here's evidence. So she has 15 years. She is an investigator. So I'm guessing she has a lot of experience doing this. So she's good. I'm gonna infer that she's good at her job because she's been doing it for so long. So you see, I have the evidence, 15 years. Plus, I'm like, well, if someone does something for 15 years, they're probably pretty good at what they do. So Detective Sarah Martinez had investigated countless cases during her 15 years with the Metropolitan Police. But the theft at the Riverdale Art Museum presented unusual challenges. 3 valuable paintings had disappeared overnight, yet the security system showed no signs of tampering, and the night guard insisted he had seen nothing suspicious during his rounds. Okay, so this is evidence. This is all evidence, especially this. Like, I'm trying to figure out right now who might have done it. There is no sign of tampering with the security system. The security guards saw nothing suspicious, so I can infer that it might have been someone in the inside. Maybe someone that works there did it, because that's usually how my inference goes, right? Like, there's no tampering and no one's taking accountability. The stolen artwork included a Renaissance portrait valued at $2 million, expensive, a modern abstract piece worth $800,000, and a small landscape painting that, while beautiful, was worth only $15,000. Okay? The seemingly random selection puzzled Martinez. So seemingly random in this case, it sounds like because the paintings were all different. There's a Renaissance one, there's a modern one, and there's this landscape painting. So they're all different, and they're all worth a lot of different amounts of money. One is worth $2 million, the other one's worth $800,000, the last one is worth $15,000. So if you're gonna steal, my inference is, if you're gonna steal paintings, you will steal the most expensive ones, not all random. So random in this case means it's like there's no order to it. It sounds like they just went in and took whatever. Martinez began her investigation by interviewing Dr. Emily Watson, the museum's curator. The curator is the person that's in charge of the museum, really, who had discovered the theft when she arrived for work that morning. Interesting. I immediately noticed the empty spaces on the walls, Dr. Watson explained. So I want you guys to think about who these people are. So we have the detective, Sara Martinez. That's one person. We have someone else, the night guard. We don't know his name yet. And then we have Emily Watson. Okay, I'm going to highlight these different colors so you guys. This will be pink. This one's going to be this color. And the director's going to be this color. Okay? Okay, so she said, I immediately noticed the empty spaces on the walls, Dr. Watson explained. What's strange is that the thief left behind several paintings worth much more than the landscape that was stolen. So think about why that's strange. Why is this strange? It's strange because if you're a thief, you usually go for the more expensive things, not the one that's worth $15,000. The detective found this detail particularly intriguing. Professional art thieves typically research their targets carefully, focusing on pieces that will bring the highest profits with the least risk. The inclusion of inexpensive landscapes suggests either an amateur or someone with a different motive entirely. I wonder, I'm intrigued now, like, why did this person take this very cheap painting? Security footage revealed another puzzling element. The cameras had recorded normal activity throughout the night, showing the guard making his regular patrols and the empty galleries between his rounds. Empty means that there's no other people. However, Martinez noticed something peculiar in the footage at 2:47 a.m. A shadow that appeared briefly in the corner of one frame, though no person was visible. So there's a shadow. I wonder if the security guard is working with someone. Martinez interviewed James Morrison, the night security guard. So that's this guy. That's this guy. Who had worked at the museum for 12 years without incident. Okay, so he's also been there quite a bit. So I can infer that he's good at his job. He's trustworthy. There have been no issues, so I'm guessing he didn't do it then. He says, I follow my usual routine. Morrison insisted. I checked every gallery twice during the night, and everything seemed normal. I would have noticed if anyone had entered the building. The detective, Sara Martinez, the detective's examination of the crime scene yielded few physical clues. Yielded in this case means that resulted in very little. So she can't figure it out. There were no fingerprints on the walls where the paintings had hung, no footprints on the polished floors, and no sign of forced entry anywhere in the building. So it looks like it was it had to be an inside job, right? Because you can't find any of this evidence. The sophisticated alarm system had not been triggered, and all doors.
Mr. Ramos.
Yeah. Sorry, someone interrupted. Okay. Where was I? No sign of forced entry anywhere in the building. The sophisticated alarm system had not been triggered, and all doors and windows remained securely locked. As Martinez continued her investigation, she discovered that Dr. Watson had recently rejected a proposal from a private collector who wanted to purchase the Renaissance portrait. Okay, so Dr. Watson is the one in charge of the museum. Okay, as Martinez continued her investigation, she discovered that Dr. Watson had recently rejected a proposal from a private collector who wanted to purchase the Renaissance portrait. This is super important. So there's a person that wanted to buy the Renaissance painting, and Dr. Watson said no. That's what that sentence says. The collector, Marcus, had made increasingly aggressive offers over the past months, finally threatening legal action when the museum refused to sell. So this guy really wants these paintings. But can I infer that he did it? You can make that inference, maybe. But is it a logical inference? Will someone that's a millionaire be willing to lose their money and lose their freedom to own something? I don't know if that's the strongest inference, but let's continue. However, when Martinez interviewed Blackwell, he provided a solid alibi. Now, an alibi, for those of you guys who don't know, an alibi is kind of like I don't know how to describe it. It's a thing that you say that you were doing. For example, if you're accused of a crime, you can say, well, I wasn't there, I was somewhere else. And if you can provide evidence that you were somewhere else, then you wouldn't be a suspect. An alibi is kind of like an excuse that you had for being somewhere else. If someone accuses you of starting a fire, and let's say someone accuses you of starting a fire in California, but you have evidence that you were in Florida when the fire started, then that's an alibi. That's a great alibi. So this guy Blackwell says that on the night of the theft, he had a solid alibi. He says that he had been attending a charity gala across town, with dozens of witnesses confirming his presence throughout the evening. So he's like, I was at this gala and all these people saw me there. How can I be in two places at the same time? Right? But again, the inference, right? This guy is very rich. This guy is very powerful. Maybe he hired people to steal it. He didn't have to do it. Why would he do it himself? Security cameras at the hotel also verify his alibi. So again, his alibi says that he could not have done it himself. But again, you have evidence. The evidence that he's rich, that he really wants his paintings, and he's aggressive. That's evidence that, and I know that when people are like that, from my prior knowledge, that he is a suspect because he has all these things, right? If you're aggressive, you're rich, and you really want something, I know for a fact that people are willing to do stuff that is illegal. Let's continue. The breakthrough came when Martinez decided to examine the museum's empty employee records. The museum's employee records. Why did I say empty? The breakthrough came when Martinez decided to examine the museum's employee records more carefully. So she's trying to see who works for the museum. She discovered that Morrison is this guy. Morrison's the guy, right? The rich guy? Here he is. Oh no, Morrison's the security guard. So you have to always go back. Morrison's the security guard. The breakthrough came when Martinez decided to examine the museum's employee record more carefully. She discovered that Morrison had recently experienced financial difficulties due to his wife's medical expenses. So Morrison's a security guard. He's having some money problems. Okay? And when people have money problems, people are willing to do things sometimes that are not the best. More importantly, she found that his nephew worked for a company that had installed the museum's security systems 5 years earlier. So again, this police officer, this investigator is putting all these things together. So Morrison has family, he's having some financial issues, money problems. Morrison also has a nephew that installed the museum's current security system 5 years earlier. So you see the evidence here that maybe he's involved. But let's see. Just because you are having financial issues doesn't mean that you're going to commit a crime. Just because you have a nephew that installed the security cameras doesn't mean that you're going to commit a crime. But that is evidence. Armed with this information, Martinez confronted Morrison with her theory. Under pressure, the guard finally confessed to the crime, revealing that he had used his nephew's inside knowledge of the security system to disable specific cameras to temporary. He had hidden the paintings in a storage room within the museum, planning to retrieve them after the investigation ended. So it was him. And he said, I never meant for this to happen, Morrison admitted. I just need money for my wife's treatment. I thought if I took the paintings with different values, it would confuse the investigation and buy me time. Martinez had solved another case, but she felt sympathy for Morrison's desperate situation even as she placed him under arrest. So it was the security guard, remember? The security guard did it. Because he needed to sell these things for money. And that rich guy was not involved at all. I thought he was. Seemed like he did. Okay, let's look at some of these questions for this reading. Click two sentences or circle two sentences that best support the inference that Detective Martinez suspects Morrison might be involved in the theft. So this is the inference, right? That Morrison might be involved in the theft. So what evidence do we have that can support that? However, when Martinez interviewed Blackwell, he provided a solid alibi for the night of the theft. This has nothing to do with Morrison, right? It has nothing to do with Morrison. Nothing. The breakthrough came when Martinez decided to examine the museum's employee records more carefully. Okay, possibility. She discovered that Morrison had recently experienced financial difficulties. And more importantly, she found that his nephew worked for the company and installed the museum. So it's going to be B, C, or D. Now, all of these talk about employees, but only C and D are focusing on Morrison and how he's having difficulties with money, and how his nephew, Morrison's nephew, he worked for a company that ran the security system. So this one's Z is the easiest one. D is a little harder. This one doesn't actually talk about how Morrison might be involved. It just talks about how an employee might be involved. Or actually, it doesn't even talk about employee being involved. It just employees being involved. It just talks about how she decides to run, how she decides to review the records again. Okay, so that's C and D. Always be careful when it says pick two. Okay. Read the sentence from the text. The seemingly random selection puzzled Martinez. Most art thieves targeted either the most valuable pieces or works that were easy to transport and sell. What does the word random mean? You have to look at the context, right? The seemingly random selection. So randomly picking arts. It's not deliberate. Deliberate means you plan it out. It means without pattern. It's kind of confusing. They picked two that are, one that's really expensive, one that's in the middle, and one that's really cheap. Some of you guys are gonna say expensive because you heard the word expensive in the text, or you think it's expensive because there's an expensive painting. But in this case, random simply means it's unpredictable. It's the opposite of this one. Okay, so the answer is B. This question has two parts. First, part A, and then part B. You're gonna get questions like these. And usually it's three, in this case it would be 3A and then 3B. So you have to get both of them right. Which of these inferences about the stolen paintings is supported by the text? So which of these inferences about the stolen painting is supported by the text? The easiest way to do this, eliminate the ones that you know are wrong. So let's find those first. The thief chose paintings because they were the easiest to remove from the museum. The paintings were selected to confuse the investigation rather than for maximum value. The thief had extensive knowledge about art history and painting techniques. No, he doesn't. He's a security guard, right? He doesn't really know anything about paintings. So let's cross that one out. The paintings were stolen by someone who planned to sell them immediately. Again, no. He said, I needed time. I needed time. Which of these inferences about the stolen paintings is supported by the text? So again, which of these inferences about the stolen paintings is supported by the text? The thief chose the paintings because they were the easiest to move. He didn't really talk about that, uh, or focus on the movement of them. He focused on them to confuse the investigators, so it will seem more random. Okay. Number 4. Which sentence best supports part A? Let's read these. The stolen artwork include a Renaissance portrait valued at $2 million, a modern abstract piece worth. So they tell you what the cost is. Okay, but this one doesn't talk about why he chose them. This one doesn't talk about why he chose or picked them. Professional art thieves typically research their targets carefully, focus on pieces that would. Again, he doesn't talk about why he picked these. What's strange is that the thief left behind several paintings worth more than the landscape that was stolen. Again, he doesn't talk about. They don't talk about why he did that. And he says, I thought if I took paintings with different values, it would confuse. So he did it because of this. To confuse. This is this is really not an inference question because it's almost like a right there. They actually tell you that.